And we are live. What is going on, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight? Welcome back to another weekly live stream of the James Jackson film. I don't know what I'm going to call this. I'm just making stuff up as I go until I figure out a name that sounds fine. If you guys got names, let me know. I'll check. I could use some help with names of trying to do this podcast. Anyways, if you guys are new here, I am James Jackson. I am a filmmaker, but focuses primarily in DP as well as color grading. And I have a YouTube channel here talking about the love of gear, talk about news in our industry, and try to do what I can to sort of help anybody who wants to listen to level up and try to make themselves as better filmmakers. So this is a weekly stream that I do every week where I go over the latest news. We have conversations about things and try to have honest talks about what's going on in the industry and how we can move forward. Today we got an interesting show. We've got it looks like Canon's going to release the R6 Mark III, which has been highly anticipated by Canon fans and people who love the Canon ecosystem. That looks like that is going to be announced next week. Actually, I guess it would be like a week from today. And if that is the case, well, I will be going live with my buddy Simon Yates of Ordinary Filmmaker over there. But in the meantime, right now we got rumors. We're going to go over the specs because it's been updated since the last time I talked about it. So that's what we're going to talk about. Also, Nikon, as y'all probably see all over the internets, Nikon has released the ZR. Reviews are everywhere. I've been bombarded by video content on news to the point where it's now reached a bit of annoyance, but that's a personal thing. However, speaking of annoyance, it looks like CineD has got quite a bit of pushback on their video and the critiques that they have. Basically, the main critique is that the Nikon ZR a actual cinema camera. So we're going to discuss that. We're also going to discuss their feedbacks. Is the pushback on them legit? Is what they're saying legit? We're going to have all that talk and more. And as always, I'm here to have conversations and talk to you guys. Now, I'm going to try to do something a little different starting today. Starting today, I am going to try to shout out another channel that is providing very, very informative and information content, and I would love you guys to go out and support this person, who produces the contents that could help us out and be better. So with that, I'm going to first give a shout out to Jared Hoyman. Oh, wrong click. All right, here we go. Jared Holman. For this video that you guys see here, he is he's a real estate photographer / videographer. I've actually got a chance to meet him on one of Ordinary Filmmaker's live streams. We got to chat in, but he also comes from an insurance background, and he put out this video a little bit over a day ago about a lot of the economic warnings and how we should prepare. And honestly, a lot of the things that he points out, a lot of the canary or the coal mines, you could say, or the warnings, you could say, is stuff that I also have been reading myself and sort of just making pivots to prepare for what we both see as an upcoming major economic crash. Also for those disclosure, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not here to give financial advice. But as someone who did work in this space, I think Jared has the insight, and also he's got a great humor. He's got that kind of British dry humor that I personally kind of love. But honestly, the content is great, and you should definitely check out. Now, in the description of this live stream, I do have the link to this video, so check it out, save it. And make sure to really take it, because this is probably really, really important information. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to be doing a bit differently at the start of each stream is I can find some interesting deals on products that I personally think you should check out. I will basically, if I find them, obviously this may not be a every weekly thing because this doesn't necessarily happen every weekend. But I would definitely point them and share them to you. And today I actually do have two. I have two. Actually, no, quite a few. I have quite a few deals that I've discovered. The first one I'm going to bring up is, let me pull this up, is from DZO Films, and I kind of brought this up last week when I was at NAB, and the fact that I was told by a rep from DZO Film that they are going to discontinue the Pictor zooms soon, and that they were going to be put on a permanent sale, or basically a closing sale, and it's basically they're stopping the manufacturing because they're not really put. So in doing so, it looks like that finally has happened, and as you guys will see here, the Pictor zooms have a massive deal. So like the 20 to 55 is now, which was originally $2,200, it's now $1,500. And if you go scroll down, you can see here there is you can get the two set that you maybe got, and you can get those for $2,699 or $2,700 when originally this was a $4,150 price tag. So massive deals on DZO Films. Again, I have, and these are, I'll be honest, these are affiliate links, but they go to help the channel out, but I'll also leave these in chat if you guys are interested in picking them up. So there's the Pictors. So unfortunately I don't have anything that's Super 35. All my equipment is full frame, but I know some of y'all probably have Super 35 cameras. So honestly, I've rocked with the Pictors with my buddy, a couple of my colleagues who does have like the Ursa Minis, which are Super 35 cameras, and they've been using them, and they're workhorses. So I can't recommend you not to get them if you're trying to get them on the price list. So the next one is for all the people in the Lumix gang. All my people in the Lumix gang, you guys there's something for you guys too as well. So, as I'll show here, there's a massive deal going on right now for a lot of the Lumix cameras, particularly the S5 II, the S9, and I believe the G9. So those are the three major ones, but let me see if I can find the S9, because that's really the big one that I saw. So right now, the S9 has a $300 sale going on, where it's now $1,200 for the Lumix S9. And then the S5 II actually has a deal right now where it's $2,000 instead of the $2,200, so $200 for this. The S5 II, let me see where it is. Here it is. Has a $500 discount right now. Originally, obviously, at $2,000. It's now the S5 II is now $1,500. And then the last one that I saw was the G9, if I can find it. Oh, also the G7, $400 off on the Lumix GH7 for Micro Four Thirds. Trying to find the G9. Anyways, I'll leave a link as well to this, to all the Lumix. So again, Lumix gang, if you guys want to try to pick up one of these guys, these are great deals on these cameras. Now, does that mean potentially that an S1H2? Nope, I'm not doing that. Sorry, not doing that. Something because. And then one last one, and this is for all the people. I know I'm waiting for the Pixis 12K. I know a lot of us are still waiting for a Pixis 12K. I'm still waiting. Whatever, if you don't want to wait, or maybe you're like, you know what, maybe I may look at the Pixis 6K. But man, it's like almost $3,000. Well, for L mount only, it looks like this is L mount only. It looks like for a limited period of time, the Pixis 6K L mount version, and let me go ahead and switch, is now on sale. It has $800 off from its original $3,300 price. It's now it's now less than what the original price of the Pixis 6K. It's now on sale for $2,500. So if you guys are interested in that, I just dropped that one in the chat as well. So these are all, I wanted to just give you guys a little hint on these deals. Again, I'm not stressing, do what you want. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. There's no pressure. I don't want to make it seem like there has to be pressure. There isn't. I just want to say, like, it's clearly that right now a lot of these companies are trying to, like, clear inventory. And this is all stuff, like, before the holiday season. So, look, could you get more deals coming on Black Friday or something? Honestly, I don't know if they're going to be this deal. Honestly, I think they're probably going to cut less. They're trying to maybe try to sneak some in for here and then maybe give a little bit less of a discount. Because I'm going to be honest, holiday deals are not what they used to be, at least here in the United States. So I think a few of these actually end tomorrow. So again, if you're not sure, don't rush. And that's not what I ever want to do, especially in times like this. I almost went Meek Mills with that, but I basically just wanted to just pass this information on to you. So let's check the comments before we fully get started. How do I sound? Hopefully I sound pretty good. King, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining. How many R6s 3s am I getting? Honestly, I'm probably not, but I'm very, very curious. And we'll get into it because it's very intriguing. If the rumor specs are true, there's a lot of questions I have in terms of Canon, but we'll get to that. But as of right now, 0 in my point. So, VLC Forward, thank you for joining. This guy's made a hilarious video with Tony Rotham and Cameron Conspiracy seeing an alien. No, Jared has a lot of great humor, and again, he has some great content. And I think, and especially on a video like that, he should definitely get more views because it's very, very important for us to try to have good financial practices, especially for us as freelancers, which is very, very seasonal, and our business is heavily on the greater macroeconomic scale. Yes, yeah, Robert, thank you for joining me. Yes, Super 35 lenses are so affordable. Like, honestly, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I think I mentioned this last week too. It's kind of insane to think about where we are with lenses, or just in the camera space in general, where we are. Where if you just go back, definitely if you go back 10 years, but even if you just go back 5 years, and you look at the landscape of what cost for price for quality was, particularly on lenses, that has just it has just came down quite a bit. Especially for APS-C and Super 35 lenses, like they're really affordable right now because everybody's moving fully into the full frame, which again, it's all user based, and I think me personally, again, I am someone who loves the look of full frame, which is why all my sets is full frame. But I could also see that maybe there's some opportunities where it's okay to use Super 35 lenses. And yeah, no, totally agree. It's crazy where we're at, what the prices we're at now. Agneta, thank you for joining. Do you think you can make a tutorial on using your Pixis in DaVinci Resolve? Just got a 6K, but not sure the best color management. You know what? Yes. Absolutely. I can definitely do that. In fact, I probably will try to do something like that in the next couple days. So it probably won't be ready this weekend or anything. I usually wait till the following week to just let YouTube's algorithm catch up. So I'll try to do about doing a video this weekend, and have a video for something like that going out. Because yeah, I think that's definitely worth deserving a video for. So I got you. Shama Branch, what's up? What's up? Thank you. When people say about the Nikon ZR, yeah, this is a C or D cam, are they basing that on the IO only because the solo shooter, the image quality is top notch? Um, I think it has more to do with functionality and workflow because image quality is like honestly, it's maybe like 30% of at least, especially with the camera, because things like lighting, composition, the lens you choose, and what you throw in front of the camera has more impact on the image than the camera itself. So that's number one. But number two, like cameras are right now just so good. Image quality is very, very different. Like I'll be honest, I can make, especially, and again, I can understand maybe I'm coming from a very, very different perspective as I'm a colorist as well. So I can match a lot of 10 bits to 12 bits and make them almost indistinguishable. So I have to constantly remember that's not maybe the case for everybody. But for me, it's just like, you know what? Image quality it's not that much difference compared when it regards doing workflow. Because workflow to me is the most important thing. And that's why when it comes to an A camera, I think most people think this has got to be a camera that can go to small crew all the way to like your the top of the budgets of your camera of say your projects. B cameras got to be able to in some places take the role of an A camera, but mostly be a secondary. It's really the IO ports is definitely part of it, but I also think it's the way the medias function. Again, it's just the workflow of from a lot of people I've heard and people that I actually got here that I've heard it from is that the workflow is just weird and it's not the most fun workflow. And I guess that hopefully that answers your question, man. All right. I'll catch up to your questions later, but because I think it's time we go into our first camera topic, and that, of course, is the highly anticipated rumor of the Canon R6 Mark III. So, if you guys are a little bit behind, there's been a lot of rumors, and basically, I've even got it from people that sort of do a lot of these journalisms and going into these leaks. And it's all pretty much confirmed that the R6 Mark III is going to be announced next week on November 6th. Now, there's a bit of confusion of timing. Like, is it going to be like midnight starting on November 5th, midnight, which would be November 6th? Will it be? There's a little bit of confusion. Nobody knows the exact time yet. But it is going to be announced essentially on November 6th. So, and then rumors, when the rumors first came out, it basically was going to create that it's going to have the same sensor as the recently announced Canon C50, which I actually got my hands on at NAB New York last week. Really great ergonomic camera, feels great in the hands. Really love how it could potentially be a workflow. Of course, however, so when this was announced, it was just like, okay, what was going to be limited? Now, when I originally made my video and started talking about the R6 Mark III, I was like, okay, they're probably going to cut a couple things. Like, they're not going to give C-Log 2. They're going to just use SD cards. So that's going to limit to maybe no internal RAW. That's what I was thinking. Well, Canon Rumors has updated their confirmed specs, and it's actually much, much closer to the R6 Mark III than we originally anticipate. Not the R6 Mark III, the Canon C70. It's a lot closer, and to the point where it's kind of eyebrow raising. Is like, why? Especially if we're looking, if the price point of this is true, there's going to be a lot of eyebrow raising. So it's basically all but confirmed that the Canon R6 Mark III is coming November 6th on 2025. They're also apparently going to announce a 45mm f1.2 STM lens along with it. That's supposed to come under $600, which I think that's actually cool. I'm glad that actually Canon's putting out more like unique lenses that are not really like 45. So that's really good. But now let's go right into what I'm talking, because it looks like if we dive right down to the specs, this is pretty much what the C50 has, except this camera has IBIS. This camera is going to have an EVF, and this camera is going to be essentially $1,000 cheaper. So, but let's look at this. It's going to have the same sensor as this Canon C50. It's going to have dual pixel CMOS AF2. It's going to have, again, IBIS, so 6.5 stops of IBIS. It's going to have a 5.76 million dot EVF. It's going to have the same 40 frames a second electronic shutter. It will have Canon Log 2 and Canon Log 3. It's going to have long up as well as AI. And why I was confused, though, it's like SD cards, I'm not sure they'll do that. Until I read down further that it's going to have CF Express Type B and an SD card slot. Again, just like the Canon C50. So here's an update. It's like in terms of the slow fast. This feature lets you select frame rates based on multiplication factors more efficiently. That basically, it's like, okay, if you choose 24 frames per second, the frame rate options you're going to get is based on 24 frames a second. If you choose 30, it's going to choose options based on 30 frames a second. Long story short. Max ISO of 64,000 ISO. It will have the 7K open gate like the C50. It's going to have RAW, but instead of up to 30 frames per second, it's going to be up to 24 frames per second. So I guess that's the difference. That's one of the difference. Have 24-bit audio, which we expect. Again, the CF Express B and SD card slot. Full-size HDMI. Go the same battery. Now here's the thing. It looks like it's going to be $2,899, which, if I'm correct, that's $1,000 cheaper than the Canon C50. So, as you guys can probably take a guess, I was this raised quite a bit of eyebrows to be like, why? I'm not sure why Canon would release a camera that essentially has almost the same specs as the C50, and it basically costs $1,000 less, essentially. So, again, I should point out that these are just rumors. We don't know what the final specs are going to be, because there was a lot of stuff that was talked about in terms of the C70 that I thought was coming, or that there was rumored to be coming, and it didn't end up being true with that too. So again, keep a grain of salt, but it's still crazy to think that Canon, if this is actually true, that essentially it is going to have all eye, it's going to shoot RAW, but the main difference is going to be that it's going to limit to 24 frames a second instead of 30 frames a second. And for a lot of people that complained that, hey, there was no EVF, there was no IBIS, this is essentially the camera that they wanted the C50 to be, more or less, but it's going to be $1,000 cheaper, potentially. Again, we'll see. But that's essentially what they're about. I'm very curious about what the response, if all of this is true, what the response is going to be, because I can see it where there's going to be a lot of blowback on Canon for people that pre-ordered the Canon C50, and it's just like, why you do this? Now, I think ergonomically, the C50 is going to be better. It's got that fan. It's got the top handle, which is a great top handle. I personally love the design of that a lot more than these mirrorless style body, even though they're both mirrorless style bodies, but that more traditional mirrorless camera style, I like this a lot more. I like the C50's design a lot more. And you can put a shock mount, which does allow you to use professional shotgun mics. So in terms of hardware as well as some software, there does look to be a difference, but is those differences worth $1,000 price difference? That I don't know. That I don't know. So I am really curious to see if, again, if this is all set to be true, what will be the response? Because I think there's one hand, a lot of people are going to come in and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever because we're getting all the things from the C50, but you're getting it at a cheaper price, and you're with only losing a few features." And in that case, I think it's going to definitely be a major win. But I think people who are looking at the C50 and sort of seeing what that is coming, and then they look at this and they go, it doesn't seem to be a lot of trade-offs. I guess the other thing would be that you're not going to get the UI of the C50. You're not going to get shutter angle. You're not, you're most likely going to get false color because Canon has been putting false color in all of their cameras. So it would be really, really, really weird that they didn't put it here. So you'll still get false color, but you won't get, again, the UI, the cinema UI. You won't get shutter angle. So there's a couple things, but I would love to know what you guys think. If these specs are true, and this is going to be what the R6 Mark III is going to be the specs they're going to announce with next week, how do you feel about it? And if you pre-ordered the Canon C50, what is your thoughts about it? I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know. All right, let's go back. So back to Alan. I think people are way too condescending about the Nikon ZR given the value for money in 2025. Thank you for your appreciate that. And hold that thought. I don't know. You might feel different about me in a few minutes because we'll get to the Nikon story. Because I have thoughts. I have thoughts, and I'll just say that. But we'll get to that when we get to the next topic. I think people need to shoot with what they like and learn to deal with the quirks and adapt your workflow to it. I use an R50V as a gimbal camera for weddings, and it looks so good, better than I thought. That's a great take, Shanla. I agree to an extent. I do agree that, look, every camera has flaws, every camera has quirks. I mean, I'm a proud owner of a cinema camera 6K. There's a lot of quirks and a lot of problems with that camera. But with certain technologies that have came out, the quirks are not nearly as bad as what they used to be when Blackmagic first started making these pocket style bodies. For example, I know battery life was always a big deal of the cinema cameras, but with these power banks, these small little power banks that you can clamp onto a tripod, especially a travel tripod, and you can keep the whole rig of a cinema camera down to the minimum. Like, I that's the way I've been shooting on the cinema camera 6K, because I just like having that big, because I don't want to block that big screen. So I just run power off of a small little power bank that can charge charge the camera, and it runs for, I would say, about 4 hours, and get 2 of those, you can pretty much go through an entire day. So yeah, you're right. It is working. Look, it's about working with the quirks of every camera. Where I say to an extent is that at some point there are certain jobs and certain projects that demand avoiding certain quirks. And there's certain aspects of our industry that just certain things just can't be tolerated. And again, everything is different. That's why I said, in terms of the jobs, if you can make it work for your job, that's great. But if it's a quirk that can potentially compromise a working relationship with a client, that's where to me, it's like the quirk has gone far beyond its worth. Again, I don't have the Nikon ZR, so I can't say. I'll give an example of something I've reviewed. These guys were the Hollyland Larg Max 2s. I've seen this video, and this is a perfect example. Actually, I made a review video where I was very critical of this because there's a lot of quirks that none of the YouTubers brought up. So If you haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. It's on my channel. But I got a lot of feedback, and some people were saying I wasn't sincere because I was being so nitpicky about something that's a great value. And while yes, this is a great value and the audio quality is great, I'm using it right now. So while it's great, it would be to me disingenuous on myself, and I feel like I would be doing you all a disservice if the quirks that I discovered, like the fact that if you use the smart receiver one time and then use the camera receiver another time, that the date and times are completely different. And I still to this day have not figured out how to correct this. And there hasn't been a firmware update that I know of that has corrected this. But if I didn't notice this date, you have to go in and basically check to make sure that what you could potentially be sending to your client is the right audio file. Because if I send my client that I pay me to do like a talking head, and I send them, say, my YouTube audio from my YouTube video, that's an embarrassment for me. That makes me not look professional. But that is a quirk that is in this. And yes, it's a great value at $270, but there's also so many flaws with it. And while a lot of people gave me feedback, some of them I understand. Like I said, they were saying it was very long. And I agree, it was long. But I felt everything needed to be said. The point I'm trying to make is that there's a point where I personally feel I'm obligated to let you guys know of negatives and critiques, and that there's certain limitations. Even to something that's affordable and it's a great quality it is, you should be able to know the quirks and also should understand the impact that it could have on your livelihood. So that's where I say reach to a point. I know this was a long-winded question. Okay, yeah, like I said, you wasn't worried about your image quality, but it works for your workflow. Again, as long as it works for your workflow, that's the main thing. That's the main thing I'm hoping. I don't really trust Canon rumors R6 specs. The numbers don't add up. So yeah, like I said, look, everything is a grain of salt. So but a lot of the things for me, while their Canon rumors hasn't been 100% accurate, I would say they've been 90% of what they report is accurate. Like even with the C50, even though there was a few things that were like one or two things, the grand majority of what they predicted or what they reported was true. So again, I wouldn't say take it to church, but at the same time, it's something that to keep in mind. Kozar, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Appreciate your interview with Blackmagic Design in New York. Very professional work. Has the ZR Red Raw been integrated to DaVinci Resolve now? Yes. I think it was shortly after the announcement of the ZR that the Red Raw, the R2D NE files do work in DaVinci Resolve. So yes, they do. And thank you, man. I appreciate that. Is my main camera a Sony A1 or an A9 III? Neither. My main camera is a Sony FX3. And I don't plan on getting rid of this camera anytime soon. It is an absolute workhorse, but it's a Sony FX3. If the rumors are true, I like that it will match with the C50. I would love to run both with my Redding hybrid shooters. I run R6, R6 II, R8, and R50V. All right. Yeah, see, I guess that's a good way to take it, that it's going to at least match with a lot of with a higher end camera like the C50. So that's one good way to look at it. So appreciate the problem, man. For Canon, where does the RFC belong in the lineup? So I believe it's still a little bit higher than the C50. So it's I guess this will be now, for terms of cinema, it will be the C50, the R5C, the C70, the C80, the C400, and that's the current lineup. Even though technically, personally, I still think the C500 Mark II is better than all of them, my opinion. But yeah, I think that's where the lineup is right now. I see the dismissal of the ZR from users who have no idea of Nikon strength. I've been using the Z9, Z8, and Bcam on to Monstro for years. All right, good. All right, that's good to hear. Awesome. All right, thanks, man. All right, that's cool. And thank you. Thank you. I try, like I said, I try to just keep it real with you all 100%. If you were primarily shooting music videos in 2025 and you can buy any camera under 5K, what would you be reaching for? Let's say you have a great light and lens. Or all right, so if I just have lights and lens, and it has to be under 5K. All right, all right. So let's think. So Pixis 12K is completely out. For me, if I had to shoot a music video, um, hmm. Let's see here. For a music video, I I was okay. So I'm also going to assume that if we're getting a 5K camera, an under 5K camera, we're dealing with low budget. We're dealing with low budget music videos. If that's the case, I would choose. This is actually a really good question. I would choose. I would choose the Pixis 6K. If I'm being honest, I would choose the Pixis 6K. I'm able to still keep it small and compact because that I can put it on a gimbal, I can put it on sliders. I still get great quality out of that camera. It's the image out. If I'm shooting music videos, then I want the best image possible. And Blackmagic has, to me, the best image for under $5,000 with either the Cinema Camera 6K or the Pixis. I get open gate. I get 12-bit raw open gate with this option, so I can shoot anamorphics if I want to. So it expands my creativity. And even though I still get 6K 60 frames a second, even though that's in the 2:1 aspect ratio, I still get that. I also can go if I have a music video that wants to do a little bit more old school. I got 4K Super 35. Yeah, I think the Pixis 6K gives me the most flexibility in terms of creativity. I know some people will say autofocus, no autofocus, and lack of IBIS. I'm a person, again, this is me, because this was asked to me. I am a person that I rather have control, shoot a music video, I rather have control over my focus, because even as good as Sony autofocus is, I don't trust it to just I don't trust autofocus to fully take over everything. And quite honestly, and I've said it before, IBIS, I think IBIS is overrated for video, and it's because it still doesn't match the capabilities of a gimbal. And I'd rather use tripods and I would rather use sliders, tripods, and gimbals to get the shots that I want. So again, if I have all the lights that I want and I have the lenses that I want, I would go with the Pixis 6K. So that's my choice. All right. I think we should talk about every limitation. I just don't like when people turn them into drama gears. What is not what we want it to be. Man, Robert, you keep jumping into the next topic. All right, I think it's about time we go ahead and get into the next topic, because this is something that we're clearly discussing, which is of course that the Nikon ZR has been released, and as most of y'all know, at least for me, and at least how YouTube has managed to do my algorithms, I've been bombarded with ZR reviews, and they're okay. Most of them are okay. I'll be honest with you, but I'll be honest. Outside of a few, there's only been a few that I've actually been impressed with what was delivered in terms of the quality. But that's me. you know. Um, but I do appreciate a lot of the people that point out some of the quirks and some of the things that that is going on with this camera. Um, a lot of it seems so weird and seems, I'll be honest, for me it feels kind of silly for a camera in 2025 to have certain quirks like this, because at least I know, like, where if you have something where you have something in the menu system and you went to save it, like if you go to, I think it was, I forgot who brought this up, but if you go in to save a custom button and if you don't hit save, if you don't go in and go to save it, it doesn't, when you turn it off, it doesn't remember the custom button. That is something that if Blackmagic did that with their Pocket 4K like 8 years ago, they would be eviscerated to do that. And it's stuff like that that makes, yes, it's quirks, and yes, the image quality deserves it. The image quality from the little that I've seen that have done it right, but it's those little quirks that that can seem to add up. And in this case, CineD brought up a lot of the things that they felt were critiques that they bring up. And I will say this: CineD made their review video, and boy, they got quite a bit of blowback for the video that they released. I was just like the you just go right into the comments and you start reading the comments. There is a lot of pushback on the review video and even this article that they published. So the main, as you can see, it's like the main thing is that the Nikon ZR, is it a cinema camera, and that's basically what CineD was kind of hinting at. With the question of, is this actually a cinema camera? And a couple things, you guys can go read the article yourself, but a couple things that they sort of point out that sort of was like negatives was like, there is no true 24 frames a second. They talk about the lack of an open gate, which again we'll get into the greater conversation. They brought up some of the quirks as well with the camera. They talk about the placements of certain things. They also brought up their dynamic range, their image test, and how its performance and its performance latitude performance is okay, though it has a great readout speed. That's one of the things. It's like it's like a millisecond behind the Sony FX3. So I guess this sort of, again, I have the article in the description. You guys can go read it if you haven't read it. You should just at least read it. For me, I guess the thing I should ask is, like, I sat here first. Let's address what the first complaint that everybody has is, like, is this an actual cinema camera? And I actually had to think about this. And to be quite honest, I'm like, yeah, I think this is a cinema camera. I think, is this right now? It's a weird. I do understand the critique of CineD's article, and I actually agree in some sense. We can't just ignore the fact that the FX3 started out with no DCI resolution, like DCI 4K. It had no DCI 4K, and it had no true 24 frames a second. Now, when that happened, I was given the same critique, and I said, I don't understand how you, and I don't understand how you're going to say this is a cinema camera when you don't have the standard cinema frame rate and the standard cinema 4K resolution in your camera. Now, since then, Sony corrected it. They added that. They added shutter angle. They added quite a lot of features to bring it up to that, to hold up to that standard of cinema. But it took a while. I also can't say it's like quirks. It's like, I think the other thing was sort of like the dynamic, the sort of dual personality codecs, because it's like you have these very heavy data-driven RAW files, and then you had 10-bit 420 H.265 or 8-bit 420H.264, which, interestingly enough, reminded me a lot of the Canon C200, because that was sort of the big critique that a lot of people had of the C200 back then, which was that, hey, you either had to deal with very heavy DAW files if you wanted the best quality out of it, or use this super compressed 8-bit file. And in that case, someone who was a C200 owner, I still made it, but I do agree with CineD in this regard that, you got to give something in the middle ground, because that's, especially if you're trying to compete with the likes, in terms of cinema, if you're going to call this a cinema camera, that means you're competing with the likes of the FX3. Regardless if you think it's not really designed to go against the FX3, the fact that they're calling this, Nikon made the effort of calling this a cinema camera. It's going to be compared to the FX3. It's going to be compared to Blackmagic cameras. It's going to be compared to Canon's cinema line, because the name carries weight. And then, of course, there's the different I/O ports, which, again, me personally, as I think if I'm going to call something cinema, it should have at least 2 I/O ports. But for me, but again, I can understand the feedback, as in, I look at the Blackmagic cinema camera and I'm like, there's a lot of quirks with that camera, and then really the main people get it is because of the image, and that's the main reason why I still love it and I still use it, is because of the image. So it would be hypocritical of me to just be like, yeah, I fully agree, but I do see CineDs in terms of like the dualplexity of codecs. It's like either you build out a body that is designed to fully utilize the codecs. It gives you some options, or you don't, and you give something that's sort of a little bit more, that's more easier for people to not have to burn through hard drives and data. And that's sort of the main thing of how I took it. But at the same time, I don't know. What I feel right now, especially with the intense like drama, or the intense need to defend camera brands like their family. Like, these camera brands ain't family. Like, yes, we meet some people, some people we develop, especially for like the influence, they develop relations with these brands. But these brands, like, they're, at the end of the day, they're trying to sell something. And it's been this camera, and then the S1 and the S1R2 I felt this sort of push, like this sense of being forced, like, yes, we know these are great cameras, but if we don't say these are the best things in the world and they're so much better than the FX3, then you know what? You're a Sony fanboy and you suck. And it's just like, but there's problems with these cameras that bother us, and it's like we can't just ignore this. And it's like, no, because how are you going to sit there with a camera that uses old tech? And it's just like, as Robert said, like, we've lost the plot. Like, come on, like, we've lost the plot, people. Like, the idea is, it's like, look, I get it. Nikon and Lumix are a bit behind in terms of the cinema world right now. And they're now putting out quality cameras that can compete with the likes of cameras that people have been popularizing. So they want to be in that game too. But just go in love. You don't have to force anybody to like it. If somebody's got a feedback, it's got a critique, it's like, okay, yeah. And honestly, I'm pretty sure CineD pointed all this out, so Nikon could take it and then put a firmware out there. That's one of the reasons why we give feedback. Us as like who people are honest and not just trying to sell you, like just trying to sell you a product. People like CineD, people like me, we try to give you an honest thing as where we look at it, because at the end of the day, you're entrusting us to tell you if this is worth investing your hard-earned money on. And I take that responsibility seriously whenever I put a video. And I talk to this with every single brand, no matter what it is. I tell them all the time that I have to test it, I have to try it out, I have to put it in a real-world use, and then I will, if I feel like it fits, I'll put it out. There's a lot of products that I've been given you guys haven't seen. And that is simply because it didn't meet a certain standard. I felt that I could look at you guys with an honest face and say, I think this is something that you should interested if this fits you. Sometimes that happens. It doesn't happen a lot because I really sort of research and look up on these products that people try to send me, because there's a lot of times people try to send me crap and I completely don't even respond to the email. At the end of the day, I'm trying to say here is that don't be so tied to loyal to a camera brand. Just the whole point is to go out and just shoot and make art. Go out and film. Like, don't worry so much about who likes it or if somebody thinks it. If you are worried about if you made a right investment, then you really didn't do your research. Because at the end of the day, you should have done. If you're going to put the payment and people come and give these feedbacks and they make you feel like you didn't make a good sound investment, in a way, that's kind of on you. Because you should have researched, you should have done your due diligence and looked at it. You should have rented it, tried it out for yourself, see what you have, or maybe try to reach out to see if these brands are going to be in your local area that are doing a workshop. Because like Canon and I think Canon, Lumix, and Fujifilm, they all do like workshops all the time. They go to different places, or at least here in the United States, they go to different places and set up workshops so you can actually try out their products. So if not, always just go. You can try to see if you can find a rental house to see if they have the product that you want, and just give it a try. But let's not like dive into tribalism over freaking cameras. Like, we need to be better than this. Anyways, rant over. D. Morris, what's going on, man? How you doing? Thank you for joining, man. Would I choose the C500 Mark II over C400? Yes. Yes, I would. Look, I know the C400 has the triple base ISO, but quite honestly, and I've seen the C400, I tried it. I don't know. These new sensors, or at least it's either the sensor or it's the processor or it's the codecs, because the codecs are very different than what the C500 Mark II had. I don't know what it is, but the quality to me is not as good as the C500 Mark II. I will, right now, at least until Canon proves me wrong. Now, again, I haven't looked at what the C50 can provide because it's a whole new sensor, so that may be different. But outside of in terms of the RF mount cameras, outside of the Canon C70 and potentially the C50, I have yet to come across a RF cinema camera that to me was on par with the quality of the C500. I still think that's one of the better sensors outside of the DGO sensor. FX3 for music video? Yeah. Like, absolutely. I mean, look, you can just go through YouTube all the time. So many people use Sony A7S3s and Sony Alpha cameras for music videos. Why not use an FX3 for music videos? You could definitely use it. Danny, I'm sure it wasn't the FX3, but Danny Gravertz uses. I believe he's used Sony cameras for Alpha cameras for his music videos, and I think Carlo Stigliano. I think Carlo actually, and I know Carlo's done a few music. I think Carlo's done a few music videos where he's used the FX3. So yeah, why not? Do you need a full kit for 5K? Honestly, I mean, that's answered to him. So I guess you guys are answering that. When I said I wasn't worried about image quality, I meant I knew it would have been great. That's why I wasn't worried about it. Okay, all right. Appreciate that. What up? All right, you guys are talking. Is the ZR Netflix approved or not? As of right now, I checked. I don't think it is. I'll be honest. I don't think it will be It doesn't have a time. They're very fickle about a time code, so I don't think they're going to. Look, I could be wrong. I don't think it will be Netflix approved, but I'll say this. I've said this several times, and years ago, I've said this years ago when the C70 got Netflix approved. The Netflix approved list doesn't freaking matter. Don't waste. If you are not, I'll say this again. If you are not a producer, if you're not someone who's actually producing directly for Netflix for one of their original series or original contents, the list doesn't mean shit. It means nothing. Nada. Zilt. Absolutely nothing. It means nothing. That everybody's so poor about being approved on the list. It doesn't matter. It has no value outside of being asked to, if Netflix is cutting a check for one of their original contents. That is literally the only reason for the list. Outside of that, ignore it. You can shoot something on a 5D right now. Something on the 5D Mark II, and you can get it on Netflix. It all depends on who you know, and if the story's good, and you get a lot of praise for it. That's really what it's about. I guess I see you guys talking. I think what the ZR offers for price is amazing, but the city name is what people are holding it to. That's a good question. I would love to ask you guys this. Let me ask you this, because if you're saying it's for the price of what it offers, if you took away the red code RAW out of the ZR, left everything else, so it still have the ProRes RAW, still have the Nikon ZR, and all the other things, and all the other 32-bit float internally, everything. But if you just took out the the red code RAW, same price, you still think it's worth its value? I'm curious. I really am curious to see what people would think about that. If you remove that one feature, but leave everything else the same, would you still feel it's worth its price? And I think that's sort of what I feel. It's like if that feature was removed, I don't know if I would see the value of this camera. I'll be honest. Outside of the screen is awesome, and I wish everybody would make a 4-inch screen. But outside of that, I would look at this, because right now, even at its price point, I would look at something like, say, a Cinema Camera 6K, which is a very similar style camera, if you think about it, compared to what this camera is offering. It's relatively similar. I would still take the Cinema Camera 6K full frame over the ZR. They were sipping on mad haterade with their testing and review. Okay, all right. It's weird. I see a lot of footage of the camera that's okay, but then folks that know how to expose it probably look amazing. To me, it's like it's the people that are familiar with how if you're using a red color science and you're using log 3G10, the workflow is very different, because the workflow is very different. You actually have to change how you expose and stuff like that, and you got to change, and also you got to really understand how to color grade, and you need to understand color management, because a lot of people just go in, they don't understand color management and throw it, and then it just comes out and it's just like, yeah. So, but that's honestly, that's with any camera. Like, I'll be honest, I feel like I could grab a Fujifilm M5 right now and go shoot something, and I could smoke everybody. Oh, well, not everybody. I would smoke a large majority of the people that bought this Nikon ZR in the footage they showed. Maybe a little cocky, but I'm just saying that's just with my knowledge and my understanding of composition, with my understanding of lighting, I just feel like I could do better with an $800 camera. I have the camera and it has quirks, but I also remind myself $2,200. Again, yes, I agree. I agree. It's hard to ignore the $2,200. The only thing for me is that, again, when do the quirks add up in terms of a workflow? And while I do agree with a lot of the feedback that CineD got, again, I'll say that again. I also feel like I don't think I would ever pick up this camera. And the only reason I would even consider looking at this camera, because I've thought about getting the camera several times, but the more I thought about the quirks, the more I thought about the weird workflows and how I would actually try to use it. What I would want to use it for, I would hate myself in terms of data management, and I would be frustrated with the quirks. So for me, I just decided I don't think I'm going to get this camera. I'll rent it, especially if there's a project, if I get hired to do a project that has a red setup. Yeah, that's the one thing I'll say. If you are like someone who maybe works with some clients or some crew or team that is heavily red, and you want to just have something like, you may not be able to get a fully Komodo X, although the argument I would make is, actually, this is actually a good argument. Let me ask you all this. Would you rather get a Nikon ZR, or would you rather get a used DCM2 red camera? Because you could get quite a bit of the because you could get a fully kitted out DCM2 red camera right now for about the same price as the Nikon ZR. So I would love to know, if you had to choose between those, would you? But if you want to somebody that's just want to be small body, wants to travel, I could see, especially if you're shooting with a crew that shoots on red, this would be like a nice little pickup or something that you could do on a gimbal. I just have this feeling that so many of these YouTubers are going to leave this camera relatively soon. They're going to leave the camera because they're going to realize, holy crap, I'm just consuming too much data, and it's costing me more storage space than I normally would like. So hopefully Nikon could avoid that and get these corrections and put in some more cost-effective codecs. I do know there's a firmware update supposed to be already announced that they're going to put ProRes LT, which would be a big help. The thing I take from the ZR is the accessories aren't there yet. The FX3 didn't feel similar until it had updates and accessories. Did the FX3 had 24 launch? No. And that I brought this up. I actually brought this up, Morris, earlier. I said, this was one of my big feedbacks for on Sony when they announced this camera and called it cinema, and everybody started moving it. It's like, this is cinema. And I'm just like, this. Not only did it not have 24 frames a second, true 24 frames a second, when the FX3 was announced, it didn't even have DCI 4K. It didn't have DCI 4K. Didn't have true 24 frames a second. It didn't have shutter angle and a lot of these other things that so many people that would look at a cinema camera, what is expected of a cinema camera, it was missing, but it eventually got there. Yeah, exactly, Kate. I know this camera was in development as a creator's camera years before. It wasn't until after Rescue that they decided they even thought to call it a cinema camera. See, that's what worries. I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that. So thank you, man. If that is true, that's one of the reasons that kind of worries me, because I never like when there was a concept in mind and then because business decisions were made, you decided to change the direction of what this camera was supposed to be. Because that's what it does feel like. It feels like this camera was supposed to go one way, and then when Red acquisition happened, they just like, let's pivot this another way. And I don't like that. I'm like, just make the camera for what it was. You could make, I guess it was just R&D cost to do with a whole other camera. It just, R&D made sense. But we'll see. So the ZR does not shoot in true 24 frames a second. So it shoots in 23.98, the drop frame option, but it does not shoot in true 24 frames a second. And as he answered that, I remember back in the day we would film on the Canon 5D and the 7D and just have so much fun. I miss those days where people were just free to enjoy their equipment. Yeah, I think this is. I guess that for me, I'm glad that I got friends in this industry that still have that. That they're not gear hawks like and chasing tech, and it's got to be the best tech ever for everything. I'm so glad I just still got some friends that are just like, yo, let's just go shoot some shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm in group chats with my friends and we chat about gear all the time, but a lot of times we're just like, yo, here's this idea. Y'all want to do it? Yeah, let's go do it. Um, so I think this is not necessarily something in terms of gear that can be resolved in terms of camera brands and things like that. This is just something. This is just a societal thing where we've over we've overindulged in our need for consumption instead of focusing on the things that make. This is going to sound super cheesy, but I don't care. Instead of focusing on the things that make life beautiful, the little things the precious things that we don't really think about till they're gone. So, I think this is just sort of a mentality that we have to change with ourselves. That this is a mentality we have to change with ourselves, where we have to think about like what should we focus on and sort of like maybe move away from certain people and certain entities and find people that sort of have that right mindset. Man, Alan, I'm totally with you, man. Totally with you. And it's all. I'll also go side note on Alan's comment because it's also kind of feel like how it was with the NBA, where so many players, so many of a lot of the current NBA players was more focused on branding instead of just the love of the game of basketball. But but what I believe is in the NBA, especially this season, this is some of the best seasons of the NBA, and it's only been a week that we've had for a while because there is clear star powers in the NBA that actually care about the love of the game, and they're competing at the high level with Wemby, with Giannis, with Luka, with uh, what if you, however you feel about Jokic or SGA, but particularly with the Joker, he clearly loves that the methodology of the game, and that's what makes him one of the best to ever do it. And obviously you still got others, but it's sort of that same thing. It's like I feel like especially the younger people that are coming up in the NBA I'm feeling that especially with somebody like Wemby, there's such a love of the game that it's oozing on to other big names, and we're going to see sort of a little turn back on that. Sidetrack, I know. What does that mean for the average user? So, I don't know if D. Morrison answered this, but I'll just ask. But essentially, is there much of a distinguished difference for the average user? The difference you may see is a little bit of motion. Is the difference in motion? You won't see sort of some of the stutters of a drop frame rate like you would see in 2398 versus true 24 frames a second, which it has a lot more of that cinematic motion character, but it's something that I'll say the average user will not notice. But but when you're talking about cinema and you're going to incorporate cinema, there's certain standards and there's academies and societies that have set standards that there's a certain expectation when you use the word cinema. So will the average user notice it? No, but people who have a speciality for it and have an eye for it, yeah, they will. Like, again, I guess it's, Yeah, people are arguing movies need to be 24, not 23. Pretty sure it doesn't really matter except for the 1% of purists. Again, um, it does it does matter. I it does matter, Demorris, in terms of where you're delivering it to, and who you're delivering it to. Um, Again, if you're delivering it for the theater, it does matter if you're using 24 frames a second or not. To a certain extent, I think they've been a little bit more liberal in terms of interviews, but for a lot of people, it's in the theatrical sense. It's still a bit of a big deal. Marketing is so far behind. Red was cool with their events. Hope those keep going. Okay. We really want the S9. Well, Dave, I put you check the description. Check the description, Dave, because there's actually a pretty solid sale. I think it's like $400. The S9 is like $400 off from its original price. The thing that gets me is Red R3D NE is one stop shifted down compared to all other Reds, and the ZR owns in RAW. Why? Honestly, if I had to take a guess, it's the sensor wasn't designed. It's the sensor and the processor was not designed to work with Red files. They just did it. They just threw it in there because of the name Red. If I had to, I'm being very blatant and honest about it. It's the fact that they did that because the sensor was not designed to deal with it. If I had to take a guess. Man, I gotta catch up. All right. I got a little inside tip about LTC support on the ZR. So it may get Netflix approved to live alongside the Reds. All right. Well, again, we'll see. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's Netflix approved or not. Again, unless you are shooting content that's produced by Netflix for the original content, the list doesn't matter. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, again, like, let's not get hung over on Netflix. It's meaningless in the large grand scheme. Does Hulu approve have any gravitas? I see what you did there, man. I'm holding out for the Tubi approved. The Tubi approved. If you holding out for the Tubi approved is just put it on Tubi. That was the thing. I saw a video of like Tubi movies, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, when they said that anything will go on Tubi, they literally mean anything can be put on Tubi. It would not be worth it because that's just a Z6 III. I think the 32-bit float screen would say yes. It probably is slightly cheaper than 1900. Okay, all right, understand. As a hybrid shooter, I would pick the Z3 over the ZR. I think the Z6 III deserves more respect. All right, all right. Hey, I'm glad to hear it, Robert. Wait until one the camera companies makes a folding screen cinema camera. I mean, look, I don't. It'll be interesting. How would that work? Because again, workflow and how would that work? How would that be balanced? It would be interesting to see something like that. I would say the ZR made me appreciate the Z6 III more. All right, so all right, we get some love for the Z6 III. That's great. Awesome. Thanks, King. Honestly, I think the ZR could have been a Z6 III firmware update. Interesting. I've never worked with the Z6 III, so I'm not going to put my 2 cents into something that I haven't really had experience. I haven't had a chance to get experience of, but I'll take the judgment. Does anyone know who is on the print in the background? Oh, you're talking about this right here? So, it's just a painting. I'll be honest. It's just a painting that I picked up. We actually used it for this commercial project we did years ago. Just to build out our set, just to build out our set and just sort of break the scene up. So that's why I bought that. I don't. So I have no idea who that is, but I was like, this looks cool. So that's why I keep. All right, you guys are still talking. So Dear Morris says he would take the ZR over the DSC2. All right, cool. I could take the ZR 10 times more places than the DSM-C2s and get 90 to 90% of the same image. All right, I respect that. I respect that, man. All right. I think they could have done to separate more to its is unlimited recorded and R3NE normal mode and maybe anamorphic desqueeze implemented. Okay. Dragon sensor is one of the most beautiful of all time. For me, I fly on a gimbal a lot, and I shot a lot of low budget features on the Dragon 6K, and it was a nightmare flying solo. Yeah. I've shot on the Dragon 6K, the Helium, and I think it's just those two. The original, and I'm talking like the epic dragons, not the newer dragon that came out, like the original epic dragon. But yeah, those things were they were heavy, but they still have some of the most amazing qualities. And again, you can get them for like cheap now. It's insane. I agree. They need to update. They need to make an update sooner or later. Cool. I got wind of an update in January. Secondhand of a person in the know. All right, cool. So I'll keep an eye on that. Like I said, if more updates were to come, if more updates were to come on this, then cool. Let's see here. What bothers me about the red long P on the back of the ZR is that I do not think we will get red on the rest of the Nikon lineup. I honestly, we'll see. I think to me the ZR gives me a sense that you will see more of like red stuff on Nikon because let's be clear, this is like majority a Nikon camera that has a few red features. Now it can lean more towards the red as they do firmware updates and add some stuff, but right now it's still more Nikon than the ZR is more still Nikon than red. Not gonna lie, I had gas buying this and I realized that getting caught up on the YouTube gear reel shouldn't matter anymore. Yep, look, man, gotta watch out for gas. It's a serious thing. Gotta make sure not to. But you know, I look, I was the same thing. Like there's, especially when the ZR was announced, then you got the Canon C50. I was looking at it, it's like, what? I started picturing where would I use it? Because right now, I'll be honest, neither one of those cameras is good enough for me yet to replace my Sony FX3, but that's a personal thing for me. Everybody needs to look at their own personal situation and act that way differently. So for me, the ZR, there just was too many things that I like about my FX3 that the ZR just doesn't offer. For me, it's the dual recording slots. It is the fact that I got Monitor Plus on my phone that I can get stop-based zones. Stop-based zones changes your entire life. To me, I'll actually go on and say this. I think stop-based exposures like EO zone is far more valuable than even ND filters, and I'll die on that. But yeah, at some point, it's like just deal with the post-hype, deal with what I like to call post-hype clarity. Sit back and go, you know what? Do I really need this? And let's look. And again, going back to what I was saying about Jared's video. By the way, again, please go check out Jared's video. Again, link is in the description. Please, I think it's very, very important that we plan ahead financially for ourselves. And he makes a great video explaining about what things are happening right now from a global macroeconomic scale. But looking at it right now, I'm like, just does it financially make sense for me to get a ZR? No. I feel like what I would, if there's something I'm missing in a desire for a camera, the ZR doesn't have it for me. The FX3 has majority of it. The Cinema Camera 6K has majority of it. The little bit that is left, the ZR doesn't solve it. I forgot who said it, but we're supposed to be producers, not consumers. Exactly. That's a bar. That's a bar, man. I got give you that. Oh man, so we're going almost out of there. So I'm gonna try to rush through these comments so we can start wrapping things up. I think it was a mistake for Nikon marketing. Could have splashed that Redco RAW was coming to 3 cameras, all over announcement, over one announcing one. Would have splashed bigger with something like a Z8, Z9, Z6. I kind of, you know what Nikon reminds me of? You know what this Nikon reminds me of? This Nikon reminds me. Do you remember how everybody reacted when Canon announced the EOS R, the first RF mount camera, and how everybody was like, I don't know, this seems off. This seems weird. I'm not sure. But it was sort of to set the stage of what's to come. I feel like the ZR is kind of this way in terms of Nikon's still trying to work out how to integrate red into this. But we'll see. Well, what you're talking about in the NBA is, in my opinion, an American problem. You are 100% right. It is you are right. What I'm talking about is what I was talking about was very much an American problem. I totally 100% agree. Because clearly based on who's like the top stars in the league right now, it's an American problem, not the rest of the world problem, which seems to be a concurrent theme regarding for us Americans, unfortunately. Honestly, I don't think we'll see red any on others for at least a year. I don't know if NAB 26 is enough time to gain some market with the ZR. Oh, interesting. You're giving Phil Jackson. Okay, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I guess I'll take it. But I'm in the camp of NRAW to R33 trick, just as good. Okay, cool. No, if your film is being projected in cinema screens, it has to be 24p. So okay, I thought it was right. So yeah, it has to be 20 true 24p. I made dozens of 23976 DCPs at 24. It doesn't really matter what the capture format is. All right, cool. Let's see here. Looks like you guys are having a great conversation. Let's see here. I'm trying to just catch up with everything. Y'all talking about the NRAW conversion? Man, y'all get it super nerdy. I love it, man. I love it. Go ahead. Get nerdy in the chat. We get nerdy in the chat. All right. ZR1, the ZR S12 and C50. That's what I'm pondering right now for music videos. Okay, that's I mean, look, all three are great choices. I'll say this. All of them have great. There's all different options and all solid and great options. I don't know where I could take you, because I was like, the C50 is the only one with a fan, which helps show reliability. It has all of them have internal raw recordings, but the C50 is the RF mount system is a closed mount system, so that makes it a problem. The S12, yes, it has open gate, but it's I know there's a debate. As a colorist for me, and someone who works definitely if you're planning to do music videos that have heavy VFX, 420 10-bit is not enough. Is not enough for that. So, but you got great IBIS with that. So if you're looking to do more stuff with handheld, I think the S12 has great latitude. It has amazing latitude performance. Solid dynamic range. There's a lot of great things. Solid low light too. A lot of good things, but there have been reports of overheating with that camera. And look, the L mount system is growing, but it's just not there compared to Sony and Canon's ecosystem. Even though Canon is a closed ecosystem, it still has some ways to go for me. And then the ZR, you can adapt to Sony's ecosystem. So you can, if you have Sony as glass, you can trade it in. You got Red Coat RAW, which Red is very heavy in the music videos, but there's all these quirks. So yeah, I don't know so yeah, I'm not sure, man. That's a tight decision. Let's see here. But yeah, I think so silently Nikon is better than what people give credit. Look, the cameras are I think the issue isn't the cameras with Nikon. The cameras are great. There's a couple problems. One, outside of the ZR, the Nikon's log is probably the most limited of terms of latitude performance compared to every other camera brand. I think almost everybody. I think Canon, Lumix, Blackmagic, and Sony. They all have some sort of log curve that just is slightly better performance in terms of dynamic range capture, and in terms of just how to operate a post. They just work a little bit better than Nikon. So that's always the thing that I've seen with Nikon is that I'm not really a fan of their in-log. I'm just not. And then the other thing is the lenses. And I told this when we were doing a live stream from one of the Nikons with Ordinary Filmmaker. We had a Nikon rep on. I told him, I was like, the biggest thing for me is that they don't have an ecosystem for video. They got a nice ecosystem of glass for photography, and they really honed in and try to focus on photography, but they're still very limited in terms of good quality video focus glass. Like they would be relying a lot on manual and third-party manufacturers, which is fine. But for me, if I'm looking to an ecosystem, I'm looking brand first, as well as like I'm looking for lenses that is going to work for video for me. Great. So if that makes sense. So I think that's the main thing, is that there's still some things with their ecosystem that it's just not there yet. Even on YouTube, I've seen few samples of people crushing it within RAW. Most people don't know how to make the codec shine. Again, it's just not something that's like a best direct to codec. Mark, man, thank you for joining us. And I'm actually about to head out because, man, we've been streaming for an hour and a half, which I've been great for these chats, and I'm glad we've been chatting. I'm glad you guys have been chatting as well. But I also know this is getting late. But so I'm gonna just go ahead and just wrap things up and say thank you guys so much. So for the next week, I'm definitely going to try. There's the person was asking about in terms of like color management with the Pixis. I'll happily, because it's the same sensor as my cinema camera 6. I'll definitely make a video on color management and sort of maybe some of the best and both the simplest and sort of what I consider the best way of color grading it. So I'm gonna have that out next week. I'm also going to see about. I got a review. I'm trying to wrap up my review of the Aperture 400X and the GVM tube light that I got right here. That's been basically keying me this entire time. Teaser. This is going to be my go-to combo for a lot of my small budget projects. Is the GVM tube light and the Aperture 400X, because this thing is killer. So just a little spoiler on that. But thank you guys for joining me on the stream as always. You guys enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful evening. I'm getting ready to relax and get ready for this Heat Spurs game. This is the game I'm so excited to see. Torn, because I'm Heat Nation. In terms of teams, I'm Heat Nation all the way. But Wemby is my favorite player right now. So, it's going to be torn, but I feel like it's going to be fun to watch anyways. Again, I'm dribbling on basketball a lot more. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week. And keep an eye out for the content that I'll be dropping out throughout the week next week. And as always, until next time, take care, everyone.